Hello, my name is Mikaela Ebbeson, and the title of my poster is Encouraging Beachgoers to Keep Wildlife Wild, Pinniped Science Communication. The phrase keep wildlife wild is one of the many used to remind people to keep their distance from wildlife, avoid feeding them, and causing harm. My project focuses on this behavior coming from people on beaches, harbors, or anywhere with pinnipeds, which includes seals and sea lions. In recent years, there has been an increase in pinnipeds on public beaches, which in turn has led to an increase in harmful human interactions with that wildlife. This is both an issue for wildlife health and for human public health. There are policy and distancing guidelines in place intended to prevent these interactions, but they continue regardless. Communicating to the public how and why to interact safely with pinnipeds is complicated by the fluid nature and audience and differing beach use values. Therefore, examining marine mammal science communication practices can lead to more effective behavior change. I explored these concepts with internship experience, expert interviews, and literature research. I interned with NOAA Fisheries West Coast region on the Share the Shore campaign, where I supported communications efforts through web content projects. Share the Shore, if you are unfamiliar, is a campaign that informs the public about pinniped science, safe behavior on the beach, and how to identify and respond to strandings. Some projects I did with them included writing a web page, creating the graphic seen in Figure 2, which communicates how to read seal body language, writing social media posts, and interviewing and writing web stories on 19 Stranding Network partner organizations. To expand my perspective, I also interviewed 6 experts working in marine mammal science education who work in a range of communication mediums. Lastly, I conducted a literature review and annotated bibliography on marine mammal public education and the related social science. I used all of these methods to answer the question, what are the best communication practices to encourage responsible wild pinniped viewing and to reduce human disturbance interactions? As for my findings, I found 4 main best practices. First is transdisciplinary collaboration. This means including creative professionals and scientists of different specialties and perspectives in the process of creating educational materials, resulting in creative, engaging material that covers a broad scope of accurate information. Second is striking a balance between experiential and accessible learning opportunities. I found that when there is a tangible, sensory, or personal experience associated with learning about pinnipeds, whether it's an interpretive tour guide, museum, field trip, studies show that experience and the associated personal connection improves knowledge retention. And while this is great, it also isn't always accessible. So including alternate web resources, VR experience, film, cares for diverse audiences with diverse needs. Third is ensuring messaging design and delivery is intentional. Messages should be actionable, achievable, relevant to the audience, simple enough to be repeatable, and delivered through sources that are credible to the intended audience. Lastly, engaging coastal communities in two-way discussion is a great way to understand their needs, knowledge bases, and the cultural frameworks that shape their perspectives on pinnipeds. Knowing these things can help communication teams tailor their messages to best relate to the audience's values. For example, as seen in Figure 3, if a community values, say, achievement and pride, you might choose to focus on the resources pinnipeds provide them and how beneficial they are for things like climate change research because they're a sentinel species. So why are these best practices significant and what would they accomplish if amplified? First, they would result in decreased harmful human pinniped interactions, and they would also mean preventing wildlife harassment penalties. Next, strengthening communications in this area would build ocean stewardship by utilizing animals that are naturally very charming, which evokes personal connection and ultimately strengthens commitment to pro-environmental causes. Lastly, strategies amplified for this topic of pinnipeds can also be applied when communicating about other marine life. In my project, where I interviewed and wrote about Stranding Network partners, experts spoke of similar communication issues that I saw with pinnipeds when it came to other marine mammals. And I believe the principles here are transferable given similarities in the concepts and audiences and nature of wildlife communication. I do want to briefly mention an important limitation to this study, which is a challenge of measuring the success of communication tools in a beach environment. Some examples of measuring success that I observed were analyzing social media metrics, asking for direct feedback, using surveys, and even one study use camera footage of kayakers, but determining the amount of knowledge learned and long-term behavior change has been widely experienced as a challenge, and it should be acknowledged here. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I would like to thank my wonderful mentor, Danielle, my faculty advisor, Christy, and my Capstone cohort for all of their perspective, wisdom, and feedback. I would also like to thank my friends, family, and loved ones for their constant support and patience. Thank you.